You are standing in a park. A dog you have never met walks past you. Your hand reaches out before you decide to move it. You stroke its head. You did not plan this. Something older than thought took over. It happens with a stranger's cat, too. It happens with a stuffed animal on a store shelf. It even happens with a smooth stone in your pocket, the one your thumb keeps finding without permission. Why does your body do this on its own? The obvious answer is affection. You like animals. You like softness. But the real answer is far stranger. It has almost nothing to do with the dog at all. Your hand is not really responding to the animal in front of you. It is responding to a wiring pattern that is millions of years old, built long before dogs existed, long before pets existed, long before humans looked anything like they do now. That wiring did not evolve for affection. It evolved for survival. Somewhere far back in your ancestry, touch was not a comfort. It was information. It told your body whether you were safe. It told you whether you belonged to the group. It told you whether you would live through the night. Petting a dog today is an accident of biology. You are switching on a system that was built for something else entirely. So what was that system actually for? Go back roughly 30 million years to the early primates who first started living in tight social groups. Survival for them was not just about food or shelter. It was about the group itself. A primate alone on the savannah was a primate about to die. Predators picked off the isolated ones first. So, primates developed a behavior that looks simple from the outside, but did something enormous underneath. They groomed each other. One primate would sit still. Another would run its fingers through the fur, picking out dirt, insects, dead skin. It looked like hygiene. It was not really about hygiene at all. A primate's fur simply does not carry enough dirt or parasites to justify the sheer number of hours spent working through it. If cleanliness were the actual goal, most of that grooming time would be wasted effort. So why keep doing it? Generation after generation, species after species, for tens of millions of years. Something else had to be happening underneath the surface. The Oxford anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent decades studying exactly this behavior, and what he found changes how you should think about every scratch behind a dog's ear you have ever given. Dunbar discovered that primates do not groom each other based on how dirty they are. They groom each other based on social bonds. Grooming is currency. It is proof of alliance. When one primate grooms another, a hormone called endorphin floods the body of the one being touched, creating a genuine, physical sense of calm and trust. Do that enough times with the same individual, and you have built something real. A friendship. A political alliance. Insurance against the day you need someone to defend you. Grooming was never really about clean fur. It was about survival wrapped inside a gentle motion. Here is the part that should stop you. Dunbar noticed something odd as he compared different primate species. The bigger the social group, the more time its members needed to spend grooming each other to hold the group together. Some primates spend as much as a fifth of their entire waking day with their hands in another animal's fur. That is not a small hobby. That is a full-time job dedicated to nothing but physical contact. But there is a hard limit to how much grooming time a body can physically give in a day, and group sizes among early humans eventually grew past what hands alone could maintain. Once human ancestors' social groups grew too large for grooming alone to hold together, something had to replace it. Dunbar's theory is that language evolved, in part, as a kind of grooming substitute. Gossip, small talk, checking in with someone, telling a story around a fire. All of it does emotionally what grooming used to do physically. You can groom dozens of people in a single conversation. Your ancestors could only groom one at a time with their hands. Language was faster. But it never fully replaced the original hardware. The craving for actual touch stayed behind, buried underneath the words. This is where the story usually gets told wrong. People assume touch is just pleasant, a nice bonus feature of being alive. But touch is not a bonus. It is closer to a biological requirement, on the same level as food or sleep. The psychologist Harlow proved this in a series of experiments in the 1950s that still unsettle people today. Harlow separated infant rhesus monkeys from their mothers and gave them two substitute figures instead. One was made of bare wire and held a bottle of milk. The other was made of soft cloth and offered no food at all. According to the thinking of the time, the infant monkeys should have bonded with the wire mother, since that was the one providing nourishment. They did not. The infant monkeys spent nearly all of their time clinging to the soft cloth mother, only leaving briefly to feed from the wire one before rushing straight back to the cloth. When something frightened them, they ran to the cloth mother, not the one with the food. Comfort beat calories. Softness beat sustenance. Harlow's monkeys were choosing touch over survival math that should have made no sense. Except it made perfect sense. Once you understand that for a primate brain, touch is not a luxury layered on top of survival. Touch is part of what survival even means. You can see the same principle at work in human hospitals today, far from any laboratory. Premature infants placed in prolonged skin-to-skin contact with a parent, a practice doctors call kangaroo care, tend to stabilize their heart rate and breathing faster than infants left in an incubator alone. Their bodies calm down simply because they are being held. No one had to teach them how to respond to touch. The response was already built in, waiting, the same way it was waiting inside Harlow's infant monkeys reaching for cloth instead of food. Before you can talk, before you can even see clearly, your body already knows that touch means safety. That knowledge never leaves you. It just goes quiet, buried under decades of words and habits, until a dog walks past and wakes it up again. That wiring did not stay confined to monkeys. It came forward, unedited, into you. The modern researcher Tiffany Field, who founded the Touch Research Institute at the University of Miami, has spent her career documenting what happens inside a human body during physical contact. Touch, even brief, gentle touch, measurably lowers cortisol, the hormone your body produces under stress. It raises oxytocin, the hormone tied to bonding and trust. It can slow your heart rate within seconds. None of this requires the touch to come from a human being you love. Field's research found that even structured touch from a stranger, delivered in a clinical setting, produced these effects. Your nervous system, it turns out, is not that picky about who or what is doing the touching. It mostly just wants the touching to happen. Does that unsettle you a little? It should. It means a huge portion of what you interpret as an emotional bond might actually just be a chemical response your body would offer to almost anything soft and warm and still. Notice how carefully you already ration deliberate touch among other humans. A handshake for a stranger, a brief hug for an acquaintance, a long embrace reserved only for the smallest circle of people you actually trust. You do this without ever being taught the rules explicitly, the same way you never had to be taught to flinch from heat. It is grooming, rationed by social distance, exactly the way Dunbar would have predicted watching any other primate troop. The closer the bond, the more touch is allowed to pass between two bodies. Strangers barely get a handshake. Best friends get a hug that lasts a beat too long, and nobody thinks it is strange. What is strange, if you stop to notice it, is how easily that entire ration system collapses the moment a dog is involved. Suddenly, a total stranger's pet gets more unguarded, unhesitating touch from you than most human beings in your life ever will. The rules that govern human-to-human contact do not seem to apply once fur is involved. This is where the story bends into something genuinely strange. If touch is a biological need with its own reward system, that system does not actually require a living creature to activate it. It requires texture, warmth, and softness in roughly the right configuration. A dog qualifies. A cat qualifies. But so does a stuffed animal. So does a fleece blanket. So, for some people, does a smooth stone worn round by 1,000 thumbs before theirs. Researchers studying attachment in children have long known that a plush toy can function almost like a stand-in caregiver, offering enough sensory signal to soothe a nervous system even though everyone involved knows, on some level, that the toy is not alive. The pediatrician and psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott gave this kind of object a name back in the 1950s. He called it a transitional object, something a child clings to that sits in the strange middle ground between the self and the outside world, standing in for a caregiver's touch when the caregiver is not there. What Winnicott never fully spelled out is that adults never actually retire this behavior. You just trade the teddy bear for a couch cushion, a hoodie sleeve, a pillow you hug in your sleep without remembering you did it. Adults are not actually that different from the child with the worn-out blanket. You have simply gotten better at hiding it. Think about what you already do without noticing. You rub the arm of a couch while watching television. You run your thumb over the seam of a leather wallet. You stroke the screen of your phone with your thumb in slow circles while reading, long after you have stopped scrolling. None of these objects can love you back. None of them are trying to bond with you. But your nervous system does not check for consciousness before it responds to texture. It just responds. This is why petting a dog that belongs to a total stranger can feel oddly, disproportionately good. You are not building a relationship with that dog. You will likely never see it again. You are simply handing your ancient grooming circuitry a target, and it fires anyway, fully satisfied, with zero regard for whether a real bond was formed. There is a darker mirror to all of this, and it comes from studying what happens when touch is missing entirely. In the 1990s and 2000s, researchers studying children raised in severely under-resourced Romanian orphanages found something devastating. Infants who received adequate food and shelter, but almost no physical touch or consistent caregiving, showed measurable delays in brain development. Some showed permanent differences in the size and activity of brain regions tied to stress regulation and emotional processing. Food was not enough. Shelter was not enough. The absence of touch alone caused damage that calories could never fix. It is the grimmer echo of Harlow's cloth mother, playing out in real human lives. Your need for touch is not a preference you could talk yourself out of if you tried hard enough. It is structural. It is load-bearing. So look at what has happened to the modern world with fresh eyes. Pet ownership has climbed for decades across most wealthy countries, even as household sizes have shrunk and more people live alone than at almost any point in recorded history. Weighted blankets, designed to simulate the pressure of being held, became one of the best-selling home goods items of the last several years. Fidget toys, stress balls, and soft phone cases marketed specifically for their texture are now a multi-billion-dollar industry, built almost entirely around adults who need something to touch. None of this is really about entertainment. It is a population quietly trying to feed a hunger most people cannot name. Researchers now sometimes call this feeling skin hunger, the low, nagging discomfort of a nervous system that is not getting enough physical contact to feel settled. You will not find it listed on a medical chart. It rarely gets discussed out loud, because it can sound strange to admit you miss being touched. But it explains why touch-starved adults living alone often report feeling calmer after a simple haircut, or after a massage, or even after sitting near a stranger on public transportation. It also explains a stranger trend. Care homes in several countries now use robotic companion animals, soft-furred mechanical seals and cats, with elderly residents who have limited access to human touch. The residents stroke them for hours. Some form real emotional attachments to a machine that cannot love them back. Because the machine was never the point. The stroking was. You live in a world with fewer hands on your shoulder than your ancestors had. Your biology has not caught up to that fact yet, and it may never fully catch up. There is something almost funny about it, if you step back far enough. A behavior that began 30 million years ago as two primates checking each other for parasites has traveled, mostly unchanged, into you absent-mindedly stroking a stranger's golden retriever on a Tuesday afternoon. The purpose has completely disintegrated. The mechanism has not moved an inch. You are not petting that dog because your brain has done a careful analysis of the animal's fur quality. You are petting it because somewhere in your skull, ancient circuitry built to secure alliances and prevent your own death by predator is still running, unaware that the predators are gone and the alliances are no longer required for survival. It fires anyway. It will keep firing for as long as you are alive, on couches, on blankets, on the heads of dogs that are not yours, because the machinery inside you was never told that the emergency ended. So the next time your hand drifts toward a stranger's dog before your mind has caught up, you might notice it differently. It was never really a decision. It was not fully about the dog. It was a message being relayed forward across an almost unthinkable stretch of time, from a primate you will never meet, sitting in a group you will never see, keeping itself alive one gentle touch at a time. That primate has no idea its habit survived. It has no idea it is still running inside a creature who drives cars, reads screens, and lives in houses built from steel and glass. It just kept doing the one thing that worked, over and over, until the doing became permanent. And so your hand still reaches out on its own. Not because you decided to be kind, because somewhere underneath every decision you will ever make, something far older already decided for you.